I find myself isolated in my kitchen, witnessing the remnants of our Thanksgiving feast. Crystal stemware reflects the dim overhead lighting, partially filled and deserted across my stone surfaces. A hired server quietly organizes dishes behind me, deliberately avoiding eye contact as I focus on my device. My knuckles pale as I grip the screen. My father's words echo from the speaker. Every syllable a deliberate, methodical wound. You only consume, Sloan. You've never contributed anything meaningful to this family. The recording stops.
Top replay.
His voice penetrates the quiet once more. Identical harsh phrases. My chest feels constricted, trapped between shock and something more severe. Something sharp-edged. You only consume. I place my hand against the cold surface to maintain balance. The servers navigate around me as though I'm an obstacle. They must circumvent. One accidentally drops silverware with a piercing crash that startles me. 3 hours before, I had been positioning fresh blooms in the entrance when the doorbell chimed. My abdomen had formed that familiar tension of anticipation and anxiety that marked every family reunion. I adjusted my tan wool pullover, examined my appearance in the corridor mirror, and greeted them with an expression both authentic and practiced. "Mom, Dad," I announced, stepping aside to invite them inside. "Happy Thanksgiving." Mom brushed past me, her judgmental stare immediately evaluating my foyer. "Those drapes are recent, rather bold for this room. Wouldn't you agree?" Dad simply acknowledged me with a nod, preoccupied by a phone conversation he wouldn't terminate even while entering my home. I suppressed the initial wave of letdown. "The servers are preparing the dining area. May I offer you refreshments?" Before either could respond, Tessa's luxury sedan appeared in my driveway. My sister stepped out surrounded by costly fragrance, her flawless styling unaffected by the autumn wind. Cody followed behind her, clearly suffering from last night's excess, but still displaying his signature appealing grin. "Sloan." Tessa offered an air kiss beside my face. "You appear exhausted. Work keeping you awake?" "Work is thriving," I responded, deciding against mentioning the sleepless night I'd spent completing the hotel entrance design that would fund this meal. Nobody volunteered assistance. As I moved between kitchen and dining area, they occupied my lounge drinking the vintage I'd thoughtfully chosen, criticizing my art selections while I coordinated with servers and verified table arrangements. When we eventually assembled around the table, imported fabric, ancestral porcelain I'd acquired personally, Dad cleared his throat for a speech. I experienced a moment of hope. Perhaps this occasion would be different. "To family," he declared, lifting his glass. "The individuals who consistently deliver when circumstances demand it." My expression hardened as his attention swept past me without connecting. The others murmured agreement, as though they had rescued the family estate during the crisis, as though they had provided monthly support for Tessa's legal fees or Cody's chronically overdue housing costs. "The poultry appears overcooked," Mom stage whispered as I filled her dish. Later, while dessert service concluded, Tessa drew me aside wearing that specific expression that always preceded a favor. "The children require new sports gear," she started, with the settlement still unresolved. I barely registered the remainder. My thoughts flashed to the $45,000 I'd advanced my parents in 2020, documented by my attorney Daniel, funds never acknowledged since, much less returned. I recalled the waterfront property I'd bought completely, a location where my family could unite, where they might finally recognize me. They'd utilized it continuously, but never expressed gratitude. Now, standing in my vacant kitchen, I access my phone and open my financial application. The series of automatic transfers glares back at me. $2,000 monthly to my parents, $1,500 to Tessa, $950 to Cody for his temporary arrangement that had extended 3 years. My father's words repeat in my mind. "You've never contributed anything meaningful to this family." A solitary drop slides down my face, creating a cool path that feels like understanding. My finger wavers over the first scheduled payment. Then I select cancel. And the following one. And the next. My breathing becomes easier with each termination. The kitchen suddenly appears more spacious, as if the boundaries have expanded slightly. The server observes me curiously as a small noise escapes my throat. something between amusement and relief. If I've never contributed anything, I murmur, storing my phone. Then I suppose I can cease contributing now. The following dawn, or more accurately, I place my compact leather travel bag in my vehicle storage before sunrise. The community rests. Window coverings closed, entrance lights creating circles of illumination on vacant driveways. My hands tremble faintly as I examine my device one final time, the display unclear through unshed moisture. 27 missed attempts. 43 written messages, all from individuals who apparently require something from a woman they insist never provides. The retreat outside Portland. I whisper to myself while starting the motor, the dashboard display reading 5:17 a.m. 3 hours after terminating those payments, sleep had become unattainable. Each time I shut my eyes, my father's words replayed. You only consume. I departed from the colonial residence I'd restored myself, with its flawless balance and carefully selected interior that none of my relatives had ever truly valued. The wheels murmur against damp asphalt as I abandon Austin. Texas countryside unfolds in my mirror, still wrapped in darkness. My fingertips pause over my device as I travel north. One selection, flight mode, feels like announcing freedom. Let them speculate, I whisper, pressing it decisively. The quiet that results feels like the first pure breath after years of suffocation. By midday, I cross the state boundary, light snow coating the roadside, converting the scenery into something foreign from the home I departed. Perfect symbolism, I consider, permitting myself the slightest smile. 3 days afterward, I stood on the porch of a wooden cabin nestled in thick Oregon woodland. Pine and earth scent fill my lungs. Nobody knows my location except Daniel, my attorney who guaranteed discretion. Vapor hangs among towering trees, concealing their peaks like the haze finally clearing from my thoughts. I arrange my drawing pad on the weathered surface, pencil gliding across paper, without deliberate direction. Concepts emerge unrelated to client demands or family validation. Simply pure imagination. Liberated. For the first instance in years, I slumbered completely. Meanwhile, in Austin, my device charging but muted on my empty house's counter accumulates their distress like digital evidence. Sloan, my vehicle payment failed. Contact me immediately. Tessa's tone is sharp, outraged, as though my funds have always belonged to her by inheritance. Hey, sister. Something strange occurred with my housing payment. The property owners threatening removal. Need to discuss urgently. Cody's forced nonchalance barely conceals his panic. Sloan Elizabeth, this behavior isn't amusing. The mortgage notice arrived. Contact us immediately. My mother's voice fractures on the final word. Their communications accumulate as days become weeks. From demands to bewilderment to fury to terror. The progression of privilege confronting its first genuine obstacle. I lose awareness of time in my forest refuge. I trek until my body aches. I sketch until my fingers cramp. I sit beside the hearth and observe flames dancing, captivated by their constant transformation, their consuming beauty. On my concluding morning, 3 weeks after my exodus, I position myself at the cabin's panoramic window, watching a hawk circling above the evergreens. I've reserved this location for numerous additional weekends throughout the approaching year. My sanctuary, my respite. I'm prepared. I inform the hawk, though it cannot detect me through the glass. The journey back to Texas feels transformed. The landscape no longer resembles something I'm abandoning, but something I'm selecting. My hands rest comfortably on the wheel. My shoulders descend from my ears where they've resided for years. I reach home after midnight. My house embraces me with recognizable aromas, citrus wood polish, the subtle spice of the mixture I created myself. I nourish my neglected plants and trace my fingers over book spines on my shelves, all mine, selected with intention. Morning illumination streams through eastern windows, capturing floating particles in golden rays. I stand in my kitchen, coffee warming my palms through ceramic, and deactivate flight mode. My device convulses with alerts. Hundreds of them. Written messages. Voice recordings, emails. The digital equivalent of hysteria. The final one from yesterday is Tessa's voice recording. They seized my vehicle today. Her voice breaks. In front of the children. Do you comprehend how mortifying that was? What kind of sister are you? I place my coffee down and compose a single message to the family group conversation. Thought I never contributed anything to this family. The responses arrive immediately. Where have you been? How could you harm us this way? We've been terrified. Is this some breakdown? Not one message includes the word sorry. I contacted Daniel's office and arranged a meeting for tomorrow. Then I silenced my device again and walked to my design station. Sunlight floods across the surface, highlighting the sketches I've returned with from Oregon. Designs untainted by duty or expectation. I trace my fingers over the paper, sensing the slight impressions where my pencil pressed deepest. These designs belong entirely to me, born from silence and space, and something that feels dangerously like liberation. My father's voice still resonates occasionally. You only consume. But now I perceive what's concealed beneath those words. His terror that I might cease providing. I lift my pencil and add a concluding line to my sketch. Bold. Uncompromising. The foundation of everything approaching. The following day, the office telephone rang for the 7th instance this morning. I observed the cord swaying with each harsh ring, declining to reach for it. My assistant, Margot, appears in the entrance, her silver spectacles catching the light. Your mother again, she states, her voice compassionate but resolute. Should I inform her you're in a client consultation? I nod, returning my focus to the hotel entrance sketches distributed across my drawing surface. The flagship project represents my career's largest contract, a complete redesign of their downtown Austin facility. 60,000 square feet of potential. Sloan. Margot hesitates. Cody's downstairs in the reception area again. The pencil in my grasp fractures. I place the broken fragments down, carefully managing my breathing as Daniel recommended during our recent meeting. Inform him I'm unavailable, and if he appears intoxicated at my workplace again, I'll have security remove him. Margot nods, her expression softening with something between worry and respect. 3 weeks have elapsed since I terminated the payments. 3 weeks of intensifying panic from my relatives. 3 weeks of discovering my own strength. 20 minutes later, the elevator sounds its arrival below, followed by the unmistakable sound of Cody's voice increasing in volume. I press my palms against the cool surface of my drawing table. You cannot continue avoiding us. His words carry clearly through the open office design. Mom requires her medicine. Do you even care? My hands shake slightly. I wait for the surge of shame that typically follows any family confrontation. It doesn't arrive. The security personnel's lower voice responds, followed by the sharp chime of elevator doors closing. Silence returns. My device vibrates against the table. Tessa's third message of the morning. Mom's blood pressure is dangerously high because of you. Hope you're satisfied playing victim while your family suffers. I place the phone face down and return to my sketches. The irony isn't overlooked that while my family relationships deteriorate, my professional life flourishes. Yesterday, the hotel owners approved my initial designs without any modifications, a career first. The door opens without warning. Daniel enters, his leather briefcase swinging gently against his leg. Without speaking, he places a folder on my desk. They're challenging the property deed, he says, loosening his necktie, claiming you purchased it deceptively as family property, not personal ownership. I laugh bitterly. Deceptive. I have correspondence where they specifically requested waterfront property with minimum 4 bedrooms. Daniel settles into the chair across from my drawing table. They're also informing people you're experiencing some mental breakdown. Breakdown? I taste the term. Because I stopped funding their expenses? Your cousin Leah contacted my office this morning, Daniel says, observing my reaction. Wanted me to know your parents have been telling extended family you're psychologically unstable. My stomach contracts. Leah and I were close growing up before distance and adult responsibilities separated us. The idea of her hearing these falsehoods makes something shift in my chest. What did she say? I ask, my voice smaller than intended. Daniel's face breaks into a rare smile. She said, and I quote, "Tell Sloan it's about damn time she stopped carrying them." Something releases inside me. Someone perceives. Someone understands. My device buzzes again. A family group message from my father. Your behavior is destroying this family. We've always supported your little design business. This is how you repay us. Little design business. The business that covered their mortgage for 2 years. The business that funded Tessa's legal representation. The business that maintained shelter over Cody's head. I slide the phone toward Daniel. Add this to the evidence file. He nods, slipping it into his briefcase. The 90-day notice was delivered yesterday. They have until March 15th to repay the loan. March 15th, 12 more weeks until the reckoning. I envision the calendar in my mind, marking off days until I reclaim what's mine, and not just the money, but my dignity. They'll intensify, I state. Not a question, but a certainty. Count on it. Daniel stands, adjusting his jacket. Have you considered relocating until this settles? Your address is public information. I nod as we develop a strategy. 2 hours later, Margot appears again, her expression tense. Tessa's downstairs with her children, she announces. The receptionist says the boys are running around the reception area, pulling fabric samples off the walls. My nephews. Emotional weapons. I feel genuine pain missing their sticky fingers and gap-toothed grins. But using children as manipulation crosses a boundary even I hadn't expected. Have security request they leave, I say, my voice steady despite my churning stomach. Tell Tessa she can schedule an appointment if she needs to speak with me professionally. Margot nods, retreating to make the call. Daniel gives me an evaluating look. You're stronger than they anticipated, he says. The compliment feels uncomfortable. Strength wasn't what I wanted from this family. Just fairness. Just recognition. My computer chimes with an email notification. The subject line makes my breath stop. Urgent. Mom hospitalized. Your fault. I close the laptop without opening it. Another manipulation strategy. Last week it was Dad's heart irregularities. The week prior, Cody's threatened eviction. If they genuinely needed funds for a medical emergency, they could sell the yacht. I say more to myself than to Daniel. The yacht they purchased after I paid for their new roofing. Daniel's phone rings. He checks the screen and frowns. It's your father. 4th call today. Block the number, I say, returning to my designs. All of them. After Daniel departs, I stand at my office window overlooking downtown Austin. The winter sunlight catches on glass structures, creating patterns of illumination and shadow across the urban landscape. For a moment, I see the world as a series of designs, clean lines, intentional spaces, purpose in every element. My family has no clean lines, no intentional spaces, just demands that expand to fill whatever I provide. My device vibrates with a message from an unknown number. Mom using someone else's phone. Your father and I provided you everything. We sacrificed for your education. For this selfish behavior to be our reward. I place the phone in my desk drawer and close it firmly. The calendar on my wall shows today's date with a red circle around March 15th. The foreclosure date. If they don't repay what they owe, not just money, but respect, acknowledgement, truth. I return to my drawings, my hand steady as I adjust the line of a curved wall, creating space for light to enter from an unexpected angle. On the day of the sale, I smoothed my ivory silk shirt in the car mirror, a plain, unadorned garment. Today's message would come through my choices, not my clothing. The auction banner caught the light on my windshield as I drove down the street of my childhood. Early sunlight stretched shadows across well-kept yards, the sort of area where neighbors observe everything while pretending indifference. My morning routine had been intentional. Dark coffee, quarter-hour meditation, Daniel's confirming call about legal preparations. The unused key to my childhood home lay forgotten on my counter, a small bronze symbol of broken connections. Are you certain about this? Daniel had questioned. I've never felt sure. I'd replied, my tone more composed than seemed possible. Arriving at the familiar driveway, my resolve wavered briefly. Not from uncertainty, but from the scene before me. My entire family stood arranged like guards protecting their ground, creating a human wall before the sale notice. Father stood center stage, shoulders set in his trademark intimidation stance perfected through years of confronting bankers and dealers. Mother flanked him, tissue pressed to her lips, eyes swollen and reproachful. Tessa stood with folded arms, designer shades perched on flawless hair. Cody appeared unshaven and gaunt, fists buried in jean pockets, jeans I'd likely paid for. Mrs. Lawson across the way tended her flowers with obvious curiosity, while the Hendersons slowed their walk to observe. I parked, killed the engine, and sat in brief stillness. My vehicle felt like the calm center of approaching chaos, the final moment of peace before entering the tempest. They were prepared. Father approached before I could fully emerge. "What are you trying to accomplish?" Precisely what the legal notice stated I would accomplish. I closed my door with a soft click that somehow thundered in the morning stillness. "Your mother hasn't rested in weeks," he said, voice dropping to that intimate tone reserved for family guilt. "Is this truly your desire? To devastate those who nurtured you?" The laugh erupted before I could stop it, a sound so alien that Tessa recoiled. "Nurtured me or exploited me?" I replied. Mother advanced, tissue now dabbing at phantom tears. "We provided you with everything, Sloane. A lovely home, quality education, mounting bills and unrealistic demands." I completed her thought. "Speaking of which, how goes that $45,000 debt repayment?" Father's expression shifted, fury melting into something calculated and oily. "Darling, we've always championed your little decorating venture. Remember our pride when you landed that major contract. The same contract you told Uncle Robert was only offered because the client had romantic intentions?" The words emerged like precisely honed blades. "Yes, I recall." "You're exaggerating everything," Tessa interrupted, stepping closer. "Families speak carelessly sometimes." "Occasionally. So you spoke carelessly when you informed your divorce lawyer I'd handle your legal costs indefinitely?" I pulled out my phone, locating the message. "Let me read your exact words. Sloane's reliable. She's always reliable." Cody finally spoke, voice slightly broken. "We always supported your aspirations." "No, you supported my finances. You supported my inability to refuse." I straightened, feeling my height increase with each word. "You supported the belief that I would never stop providing." The auctioneer's vehicle appeared down the street, followed by 3 cars from inspection day. Prospective purchasers. Father's voice became a venomous whisper. "You'll carry this regret forever." I reached into my bag and produced the printed record of his Thanksgiving message. The paper fluttered in the morning air as I held it high. "All you do is consume, Sloane. You've never contributed anything meaningful to this family." I read his recorded words back to him. Each word was small, calculated payback. "I'm simply acknowledging your evaluation." Mother commenced wailing, a display worthy of amateur theater. Tessa rushed to comfort her while glaring daggers at me. "My children will never meet their aunt after this betrayal. I'll ensure it. You no longer get to intimidate me." My voice sounded unfamiliar, steady, clear, unwavering. "You overlooked me when I gave everything. You don't get to see me now that I'm reclaiming it." I turned toward the auctioneer and offered my hand. "Mr. Calloway, I believe we can commence." 3 months forward. I stood in the center of a vacant adobe dwelling, my steps echoing against clay tiles. Morning light streamed through bare windows, creating golden squares on empty walls. The realtor observed from the entrance, allowing me space to absorb every detail. "The previous owners preserved the original features," she explained, indicating the exposed ceiling timbers. "Centuries old." My fingers traced the rough texture of a wall. Santa Fe lay 700 miles from my former Austin existence, a distance measured beyond mere geography. "The courtyard receives lovely afternoon light," the agent continued. "Ideal for coffee or reading." I stepped into the small enclosed space. Wind chimes sang softly as the Sangre de Cristo Mountains rose purple against the sky, ancient witnesses to countless new beginnings. "I'll purchase it," I declared. The realtor appeared startled. "Don't you want to view the other properties I've arranged?" I shook my head. "This feels correct." 2 hours later, I sat across from her at a notary's desk, executing paperwork for a house half my Austin home size. Each signature felt like releasing another burden I'd carried. When the final document was complete, the realtor presented me with a single key. "Congratulations. It's a beautiful property."
No, i correcte, Janley.
It's becoming one. That evening, I unpacked only necessities, a small case, my design table, and essential kitchen items. The remainder stayed in storage until I decided which pieces of my former life deserved space in the new one. I positioned my drafting table beside the largest window and secured fresh paper to its surface. As sunset painted the mountains in watercolor pink and orange, I created my first Santa Fe design, not for a client, but for myself. The simple act of pencil on paper brought a tranquility I hadn't experienced in years. My phone buzzed. Daniel's text: "Your parents relocated to West Side Apartments yesterday. 2 bedrooms. Tessa assisted them." I set the phone aside without replying. Another message followed: "Cody accepted full-time employment at Miller Construction. With benefits." A slight smile touched my lips, not from pleasure in their reduced circumstances, but because reality had finally reached my family, bringing its harsh but necessary teachings. Moving forward, Cousin Leah called the following week. I answered while shelving books in my future home office. Mom explained everything, she said. The auction, Santa Fe, all of it. I paused, design book balanced in my hand. "And I'm bringing homemade bread when I visit next month. Unless you prefer wine." "Both," I answered, surprised by the laughter emerging from somewhere deep. "Both it is." Clients discovered me before my website reflected my new location. Word spreads in design circles, and within weeks, my schedule filled with consultations. These projects carried different energy, selected for creative potential rather than their ability to fund family crises. One evening, while hanging architectural prints in my bedroom, my phone chimed with an email. The subject read simply, "From Tessa." I sat on my bed's edge, phone in hand, thumbs suspended over the screen for several minutes. I breathed through the complex emotions her name still triggered, then opened it. "I understand now. I apologize." 6 words. No explanations, excuses, or requests. Just 6 words arriving months late. I read them repeatedly, tears blurring my vision as I placed the phone on my nightstand, not because her apology healed anything, but because it confirmed what I already knew. I'd made the correct choice by leaving. Instead of responding, I archived the email. Not from anger, the rage had burned clean months ago, but from certainty. Some doors remain closed not because we hold grudges, but because we've discovered better rooms to inhabit. The cabin transformation. The cabin decision came weeks later. I drove up for a weekend, unlocking the door to memories both beautiful and painful. Family photographs still decorated pine walls, smiles and careful poses capturing the illusion we'd maintained for years. I removed each one, stacking them in cardboard boxes. In their place, I hung framed quotes about courage and transformation. By Sunday afternoon, the cabin breathed differently, its purpose clarified. During the drive back to Santa Fe, I contacted women's business networks about hosting retreats for entrepreneurs rebuilding their lives. From family hideaway to empowerment workshop. Perfect symmetry, my first client observed upon seeing the space. The cabin that once housed my family's entitlement now sheltered women learning to rise. Sometimes healing arrives not in what we preserve, but in how we transform what broke us. 1 year later, Sloane stood barefoot on her Santa Fe patio, watching sunrise paint the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in amber and rose. She cradled a ceramic mug, warmth seeping into her palms. No phone buzzed in her pocket. No anxiety tightened her stomach. "You appear peaceful," said Daniel, leaning against the adobe doorframe. Their relationship had evolved from attorney to friend to something neither rushed to define. He wore faded jeans and held his own coffee, his presence comfortable in her space. "I am," Sloane answered simply. Inside, her home reflected her transformed life, smaller than her Austin house, but filled with intention. A hand-woven rug from a local artisan anchored her living room. Copper pendant lights cast warm pools on her drafting table, where blueprints for the Women's Business Retreat Center awaited final approval. The doorbell rang. "That'll be Margot," Sloane said, patting across cool tiles. "She's bringing the birthday cake." Her former assistant had followed her to Santa Fe, now a junior partner in their expanding firm. Behind Margot came Leah, arms full of wildflowers. No one celebrates birthdays like someone who spent decades perfecting other people's special days while neglecting her own, Leah announced, placing flowers on the kitchen counter. Sloane laughed, a sound that once emerged rarely, but now flowed freely. By evening, her patio glowed with string lights and candles. 8 people gathered around her table, friends who knew her story, who had never demanded more than she offered, who brought dishes and cleaned glasses without being asked. "Before we cut this masterpiece," Margot said, gesturing to the simple lemon cake, "I want to toast our birthday girl." Sloane braced herself, a lifetime habit. "To the woman who taught me that generosity without boundaries isn't generosity at all," Margot continued, raising her glass. "Who showed me that walking away isn't failure, it's sometimes the bravest choice." To Sloane. To Sloane, the others echoed. Something expanded in her chest. Not pride exactly. Acceptance. Later, when only Daniel remained helping load the dishwasher, Sloane's phone lit up with a notification. Tess's yearly attempt at contact, right on schedule. "You don't have to read it," Daniel said, noticing her hesitation. "I know." Sloane tucked the phone away without opening the message. Not from anger. The rage had burned clean months ago, but from certainty. Some doors stay closed not because we hold grudges, but because we've found better rooms to live in. The next morning, Sloane drove to the cabin retreat center. What had once been her family's weekend getaway now housed women rebuilding lives shattered by circumstance or choice. The sign at the entrance read, "Your worth is not measured by what you give away." A young designer named Alicia waited on the porch, portfolio clutched to her chest. Sloane recognized the hunger for validation in her eyes. "My parents think interior design is glorified shopping," Alicia blurted as they sat down. "They want me in law school." Sloane nodded. "Show me your work first. Then we'll talk about parents." After reviewing Alicia's promising portfolio, Sloane poured them both iced tea. "People confuse love with usefulness," she said simply. "I spent 3 decades trying to earn approval through sacrifice. But real love sees you even when you stop providing." "Did your family ever understand?" Sloane smiled. "That was never the point." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Sloane sat alone on the cabin dock, feet skimming the water. Where silence had once meant suppression, it now meant peace. Her phone remained in her cabin, unanswered texts a distant concern. "I built my life on silence," she whispered to the rippling lake. "Not because I had nothing to say, but because what I said finally mattered."